Recognize that tune, and you know it's time for Relics Radio. This is a family-friendly show, so the entire family can join us as we talk metal detecting and relic hunting. You can call into the show at 270-495-0315 or join in the chat and post any comments or questions you might have, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. You're listening to Relics Radio of Southern Kentucky and Middle Tennessee. And you are live on Relics Radio. Well, you're live if you're listening July the 12th. 2018. We are live tonight, coming to you from the foothills of the Cumberland Mountains along the scenic Cumberland River that runs through the beautiful state of Kentucky and the beautiful state of Tennessee. And we've got a great show lined up for you tonight, and we've got some surprises coming for you tonight. And I'm joined by my co-host, Tennessee Jeff. What's going on, Jeff?
Not much, buddy. How are you doing?
So, I'm roasting, I tell you.
I know it. It's bad. You can roast hot dogs, just lay them out on the truck hood, and then you go out in about 10 minutes, and they're done. So I
got my shoes out on the on the hood of my truck trying to get them dry.
Well, they'll dry real quick, or dry rot, one of the two.
Yeah.
I left. I was mowing my yard today, and then I took I was weed eating, and I took my Crocs off, put my boots on, and then I'd left my Crocs laying on the hood. And buddy, when I put them on, I think they formed to my feet. That was the hottest things I've ever felt in my life. So I'm walking on blisters right now.
Yeah. Hey, it's good to be back home again, and I certainly do appreciate you and Heath Jones taking my place there last night. I listened to the show. Well, I actually called into the show there from the condo, but y'all did a great job.
Yeah. Heath is really good. I mean, I couldn't have done it without him, and then I'm really glad he was there. So, but I'm glad you had a safe trip there and back, and I seen that big fish Austin caught. So,
well, there's actually about 4 people caught that fish because fought that thing for an hour. And a little over an hour, weighed a little over 100 pounds. But we caught some big fish. We normally do when we go down there, and that's something that me and Austin love to do is to fish together. I don't fish with him as much here at home as I used to, but every time we go, I mean that's our priority is to fish. I took my Equinox with me and never took it out of the room. But I tell you what. They have got a new rule on the beach there, and we stayed at Orange Beach instead of Gulf Shores. And I was reading the sign, went down to the beach there that first day. No metal shovels or tools. And so I figure that I couldn't take my long-handled sand scoop down there. And that kind of aggravated me in a way. But I'm not going to get off on one of them Heath Jones or Scott Duncan rants. But that just kind of aggravated me, because that doesn't hurt anybody. I mean, you take out a little bit of sand and you put it right back, and it's not like I'm going to club anything with that scoop.
Yeah, we're not. Did I lose you, Seven?
No, you hear me? I'm still here.
Okay. Yeah, I'm having trouble with Skype right now. So.
Oh, are you? Well.
Yeah.
Who we got?
Chat's locked up.
Oh, your chat is locked up.
It is.
Well,
Woody Jones was the first one, and Larry Stevens, Bill Hayes. There's Ken, and then I can't go up no more.
You can't go up no more. Well, Ken Guthrie is in. Larry Stevens, Bill Hayes, Ron Reed is in. Jesse Rogers is in. Tim Henderson is in. Barb is in the house. Jordan Anderson is in. Like you said, Woody Jones. Woody Jones was the first one in. He said, "Yoo-hoo, Thursday." And I'm going back down. Ken King is in. And some of them, I don't know if Dennis is in. Don't know if I've already mentioned them or not. You know, it's terrible whenever you get old and you can't remember all that stuff. But we got a house full of people already, and we got a great guest tonight, don't we, Jeff?
We sure do. We got Pete Floyd. How's it going, Pete?
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate that. I'm not sure I'm a great guest, but it feels like it's starting out on the right foot. So.
You'll be a great guest by the time we get. Yeah, you'll be a great guest.
That's right.
By the time we get through with you,
you can mentor me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we can mold you into whatever we want.
That's right.
I've got a question. Right. I got a question right off the bat. How'd you get the name Pothole?
I just came up with it. I don't know. I guess I didn't take myself really that seriously as someone that metal detects, so I kind of thought it was just, kind of a catchy thing. So that just kind of stuck in my mind, and that's what I used. So.
Well, potholes are a catchy thing because I hit one about every day I go out. So
I've always wondered that and always wanted to ask you that, with how you got the nickname Pothole. And
yeah.
But you guys, your channel, y'all are very family oriented, aren't you?
Right. I tried to be right.
List off all the guys that are there. Tell us what relationship they are to you.
We have nobody's related to me.
Okay.
Big Caleb. We met at a park. Someone told him there's some guy that metal detects at the city park. So I'm there metal detecting, and all of a sudden I look up and I see this fellow running toward me with a metal detector in his hand. So we just started metal detecting. So I met Caleb first, and Matt, boy, my memory is failing me on that. He's going to be mad at me. Must have been on Facebook. And then Luke and little Caleb, they're neighbors. They live about a mile. And I actually met them through a friend to go over and metal detect their yard. And, of course, they saw me metal detecting. And, well, of course, kids, they want to get in on it. So, anyway, they got in on the clan. And so we have this group now. So we came up with Drama in the Dirt.
Drama in the Dirt. That's a catchy title there, ain't it, Jeff?
It sure is. Floyd, how long?
Well, I try to make it exciting. Sometimes it's a little ho-hum, but, so.
Yeah. How long have you guys been metal detecting together?
Well, let me see. It's probably been, for Caleb and I know it's been over 2 years, maybe 3 years. And then Matt came in a little later. And the boys, I'd say it's probably been a year and a half, something like that.
That's pretty good. So, all of you use, what kind of metal detector y'all use?
Well, I'm using the AT Max now. I started out on an Ace 350 and then went to the Pro. And then, of course, Matt has a Deus. Big Caleb uses a Pro. And then Luke uses my Pro now. And then little Caleb has his Coin Master, I believe it is, the Walmart.
Well, White's made a Coin Master. That was one of the first detectors.
Yeah, I'm saying the wrong thing.
Okay. You're probably talking about and I don't even know what the name of that detector is, the cheaper ones, But I tell you what, any detector will find metal. Some of them do a better job of it,
Yeah. Well, we had an episode where, I'm sorry, we had an episode where little Caleb, his first time out, he finds a silver $50 with that Walmart metal detector. So that's how we gave him the nickname Coin King. You know, so an 8-year-old boy, first time out with his little detector. So.
Well, you know, whenever I first got my Mind Lab CTX, my maiden voyage with that, I went out with a guy here locally that I hunt with some, and it was an old schoolhouse from like the 40s, 50s, and we had hunted it before. I'd hunted it with AT Pro, and I took the CTX in there. And, of course, I was still learning it, but I had come off of E-Track, so it wasn't a huge learning curve. But I got a signal that the first numbers on that were really low, but, you know, the conductivity numbers were up. It was up around 47 or something. It was like a 547. And I thought, you know, I don't know what that is. And I dug it out, and it was a Walking Liberty $50. That was the first thing that I found with that. And haven't found another one since. So, you know, sometimes you just get lucky, don't you?
That's right. You sure do. My first Riel, it was the first 2 Riel. I had the Ace 250, and I got permission at this old home site, and I was walking around the chimney, and then, of course, I'd got this signal. I mean, it was screaming. I think it was ringing up like 80. And then, of course, I was like, well, it's another beer can or Coke can or something, and sure enough, there's that big Riel, 2 Riel come out of the ground. So,
yeah, it's just, you know, when you do something like that, it's just like somebody, you know, like you get struck by lightning. You know, you just can't believe it.
I know it. And some things are
that feeling.
Some things are just meant to be. I think, you know, you're in the right place at the right time, and that signal was there for you. Of course, Jeff always says you're not going to find anything sitting on a couch. And that's true. I mean, you get out and you just never know what you're going to find. I just finished an article yesterday for American Digger magazine on the great silver hoard that Jeff Ford and Wes Stringer did. Right. You know, that big find that they had, and Wes just stumbled up on that, you know, and it was amazing to me because in the process of talking with them and getting information for the article, I asked Wes, I said, how many bucket listers did you find on that hunt? And he said, every one of them was a bucket lister. He said, except for a Mercury dime, he said, I'd only found 5 silver coins, and all of them were Mercury dimes. So
I remember him saying that.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Yeah, they did actually 7 videos on that. And I can't wait for that to come out. I mean, it finally turned out to be a pretty good article. And it was a blast. We had them down here hunting with us, didn't we, Jeff?
We sure did. And what was that bucket lister he found down here? Wasn't it a 1853 seated?
1853 seated dime with arrows. And he'd never found one of those. And you were with him whenever he found that.
I sure was. Unfortunately, I wasn't right next to him. I was at another location on the farm, and then we had Plugmaster Ford with you. He was digging Civil War bullets right and left, and then so me and Wes Stringer, we went to another property, and then that was connecting to the one we were first hunting, and sure enough, his I think second or third signal was a 1853 seated with arrows. So, and then I mean, he was jumping up and down. I could see him across the field jumping up and down. And then I didn't have his number, so I called Plugmaster Ford, and he told me what he'd found. So
yeah, oh man, you can hear the excitement. Hey Pete, have you ever found anything that you just jumped up and down about or rolled on the ground after you found it?
Well. I'm kind of an emotional guy, so sometimes I get a little tearful. I found that piece of Spanish last year, last July, and then I found that Drake bust, and then I found that silver dollar, which, I mean, I was just absolutely flabbergasted because my the battery was almost dead on it. I was tired. I was getting ready to load up and leave. And I was kind of waiting on Caleb, so I just, I wasn't very far from my van, and it was like an open lawn area, and it was next to our local lumber yard, kind of like in the middle of just, nowhere. And I get this signal, and I thought, well, I'll dig it. I'm sure it's nothing. And, here's this huge hunk of silver in the ground. So, I mean, it just, I just, couldn't believe it. It was just absolutely, unbelievable.
Yeah. Pete, is there anything that you haven't found that you thought you should find?
Well, I was telling you earlier, I'm about the only one in the clan that doesn't have a 2-cent piece. So I'm hoping I'll find one before the year's out.
I don't either. Jeff found one. We were hunting. I don't know if you've seen any of our videos from Harmonica Hill, but we had hunted Harmonica Hill probably twice, hadn't we, Jeff? And then you went back and hunted that part of the chimney stack, around the chimney stack there. And, man, he found a beautiful 2-cent piece there. But I'm still looking for that. I really want one. I don't know that that's something that I think I ought to find. I've been very fortunate to find a lot of things. But Woody Jones wants to know, Pete, if you found a Tram yet.
Yes, I found one. I don't know how many my episodes people have seen. I am so fortunate to have a field site just across the road from my house. And it was on the 1858 map. And of course, the house is long gone. But I dug a Tram up, an 1853 Tram up back there with the Max and several other items that were bucket listers. So very nice site.
I've only found one Tram. And I found it on the Civil War side. And whenever I first dug that out of the ground, that thing wasn't 2 inches deep. And when I first dug it out, I thought it was one of the tops on a kid's drink or something, And
that's exactly what I thought. It took me forever to find it with a pinpointer because there were so many nails in the ground. Yeah. And you know how that is. Your pointer's going off everywhere.
Did yours look pretty good? I mean, was it fairly shiny?
Oh, yeah. It's in great condition.
Mine is too.
I might post a picture of it on your Facebook sometime for you.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah,
love to see it.
Stick that on our Relics Radio Facebook group. Right. People love to look at those. How many you got, Jeff? I know you've got another one that's coming up in a video that we're going to do. But how many have you got?
I've got a total of 3 Trams, and then I found 2 on a Civil War site and found one at a old, what we call colonial site. So, but unfortunately, I had my first one I found. It was in great shape. It was 1839. I believe that's what it was. And I'd put it in my billfold with another seeded coin that I'd found, and they overlapped, and it left imprints of the other coin. I mean, it was in great shape. And of course, I was sick, but I mean, it is what it is. It was a mistake, and I learned from that mistake. So,
yeah, we learned from them. My first cap bust was just absolutely corroded because I think the old house burnt, and there was stuff on it. I tried everything and couldn't get the thing cleaned up, and I finally did a little bit of electrolysis on it. And I don't know if the electrolysis did it or whether just from being burnt did it, but it's pretty well pitted. I mean, it wasn't that pretty. But then I was lucky enough to find another cap bust here 2 or 3 weeks ago, which was a half dime, and I'd never found one of those. Mm-hmm. And it's Hold, and it had been looked like a disc or something had hit it on the side. I got it straightened out, but other than that, it's in pretty decent shape, and it looked pretty good whenever it came out of the ground.
Yeah. Jeff, isn't there an expression about, I think I'll sit on my money or something like that? It gives a whole new meaning to that expression, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was thinking, well, it's safe right here. I mean, they were off in one little pocket, and I always keep my wallet with me. And then, of course, unfortunately, I mean, I got them out and was going to put them in display cases. And then, I mean, as soon as I seen it, that silver mashed right down and it left the creases. So I was like, man. So.
Hey, guys, we need to take a commercial break. But I tell you what, Pete, when we come back, I want to talk to you about how you do your research. Okay?
Okay.
Yo, we've been asked more than once if we got Relics Radio T-shirts.
Yep.
Well, we got some now.
That's right. You tell him, Seven.
Ken and Mark Guthrie at DetectiveTees.com.
Now that's with 2 T's, Seven.
Has got the official Relics Radio T-shirts.
Now that's with 2 E's, Seven.
It's got the official Relics Radio logo on the front.
And 2 rednecks with a metal detector on the back.
DetectiveTees.com can handle tees for your club, hunt, or any other promotion y'all may have.
Yep.
So where the folks need to go, Jeff?
www.detectives.com.
And that's with 2 T's.
Okay, yeah, I can't talk anymore.
Oh, surprise. Nobody knew what that was going to be, especially Ken and Mark Guthrie, because I sent them a different version of that. And I got the idea, if any of y'all seen the lip sync that Plugmaster Ford did with us, it was absolutely hilarious. And so I got the idea that we would do that ad with that. And it's a little bit confusing maybe whenever we're talking about the 2 T's and the 2 E's. And so I put the link in the chat here and also on the description. If you want one of those T-shirts, though, you just come by Relics Radio Facebook group, and the link is there. It's on my personal link. It's on Jeff's page, and we've stuck that thing just about everywhere. But thank you so much, Ken and Mark, for getting in touch with us and making those. We don't have one yet, but we are going to give Pete Floyd a shirt tonight. So before you get away from here, Pete, we need your size and your address and everything. And then we're going to give one away to someone in the chat tonight. And Jeff is going to handle that through telepathy or something other. I don't know. He'll figure out something other. You know us rednecks, we always figure something out. But I thought that was absolutely hilarious. And by the way, Jeff Ford is on the road. He's up in Indiana. Deep Digger Duo, he's hunting with them, and I got a hold of him last night about 8 o'clock. He said, I'm on the road, and it'll be 11 before I get to the motel. But he said, you call me, and he said, we'll put something together. And so we did that, and I finished up with a thing about 12:30 last night. But it is hilarious.
It is hilarious. I can't stop laughing.
And Ken said our shirts will be sent out Monday. Somebody asked me on the shirt, said some of the extra larges are a little bit small, but I think Ken or Mark one answered that and said that these shirts are 50-50. So they pretty well hold their size and are comfortable and all of that. I can't wait to get one. I've got a Wide Pride shirt, and I'm sure that they are the same quality as that. And, they're great shirts. But
yeah, unfortunately, my shirts, they keep on getting smaller and smaller in the dryer. So I'm really not for sure what's going on with the dryer, but they keep on getting smaller and smaller. So.
I don't think it's a dryer. I think it's a supper
table.
Oh,
it's a dryer.
No, it's a supper table. That's what it is. Mark Hoover said that sounded like digging with Brett. Oh, that's all Jeff Ford, Plugmaster Ford. Hey, Pete, how do you do research?
Well, I have a lot of friends. Of course, I've lived in this area for all but 5 years of my life. So, of course, I was in ministry for quite a few years, and so I know a lot of people, a lot of farmers, farming community. So that has helped me a lot. And then, of course, I use the township maps like everyone else, I guess, pretty much does. So, and it's so remarkable that when you look at the old maps, of how many places there were that are no longer there, and then you think of the potential, to get on those places, and it has worked for me.
Yeah.
So, as we all know, it just takes the time. I have some places I want to get to, but unfortunately, some of them are like 15, 20 miles away. And, you drive out there and you can't, find the person home, or the person that owns a property lives, in another state. So sometimes that makes it very difficult.
And Mark Hoover put in there, Jeff, he said, Lord, help me get this permission. And if they say no, please smite them.
Yeah, I did see that. So, do you have Pete, do you have a special place? Do you go look for old maps and stuff, or?
Well, I just use the online historic maps.
Okay. I've seen you.
Yeah, I've never done the library thing. I need to do that.
Yeah, it's kind of hard for anybody to get the library. I mean, especially if you have a 1-year-old boy, and then then you have to do this and that. But yeah, I seen you where you were using historic aerials on the what did you call that? The
Mugsy Lake Hoard.
Yeah, Mugsy Lake Hoard. And then tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, it was an old swimming resort. I think they opened it in the 30s or 40s. And I know I mentioned in the video, I actually ran into a lady who, she's in her late 80s by now. But she was a student at Ohio State, and she can remember her and her girlfriends coming all the way over, which were 40 miles from Columbus. They would come over to the resort and swim, when they were teenagers or college girls. And, of course, I remember it from when I was a boy. We swam there in the 60s. And, of course, it closed down in probably the early 70s. And I know American Aggregates had taken it over. And, of course, it was all owned by them, and it was no trespassing. But I was able to get permission to go back there. And, of course, I explained in the video that I was probably there an hour and a half. And then, of course, didn't find anything. And then all of a sudden I come on a spot and I start hitting stuff. I pulled a Roosevelt silver, and then, before long I pulled a Washington, and then I started pulling some wheat pennies, and I pulled a Buffalo nickel. And the only thing I can figure, there must have been a tree or something that had fallen in that area that kept whoever got in there and got everything from getting those coins. But they were probably in a 20-foot square area. So I ended up just calling that episode the last of the Mugsy Lake Horde. I would challenge anyone to go in there today and try to find anything else, because I went back like a few days later and spent probably 3 hours and couldn't find anything. So I was so glad to get back out.
So you cleaned it out then?
I think I finished it off. Yeah.
Me and Jeff thought we'd finish some of ours off, and then we got an equinox, didn't we, Jeff?
I sure did. And I mean, it's like daylight and dark. I mean, we were finding stuff that we missed with the other machines. So,
that brings up.
Most of these coins are just in the sand. I mean, just a few inches down. The rest of it was hard.
Yeah.
So,
well, in a situation like that, it's kind of hard for a signal to hide from you, isn't it?
oh yeah, I mean, they were easy finds. That's what I'm saying. Whoever had been there just, for some reason they just weren't able to access that part of the beach. So
yeah,
that was the only thing I could figure.
One question that I wanted to ask you, you said that you're hunting now with the AT Max and you came off of the AT Pro. Do you like the AT Max over the AT Pro? Obviously you do. That's what you're hunting with, but what do you like about it?
I do. Yeah, I knew you were going to ask me that question, and I was trying to figure out how to explain it. Yeah, I find that it is a very sensitive machine, and when you put it in not in all metal, but in zero mode, and when I move it, and if I have zero discrim, I can tell whether something is iron, because when you move the coil past the center after you pinpoint, you get a real scratchy tone. And I mean, I guarantee you I'm going to dig iron. Whereas on the Pro, for some reason, I always had more trouble trying to distinguish whether it was iron or a good signal. But I have picked things out. I mean, if there's a high tone there or you know what I'm saying, a conductive item there, it seems to hit it. You'll hear it. You'll hear something that you feel like you need to dig. So, yeah, it's just a very sensitive machine. And lots of times when I hear something, I'll go ahead and flip it up to the all metal mode. And if I keep getting those numbers, higher numbers, I'll usually get something good. But that all metal mode is twice as powerful as zero mode. It's just unbelievable. You can hold a quarter, 16 inches from that thing, and you'll hear it.
Yeah.
It's,
Hey, Jeff, we hadn't give out the call-in number. I see Woody Jones has put it in the chat.
Yeah, I seen that. It's 270-495-0315.
Of course, we give it out at the first of the show. But if you're here and listening to the show live, call in and talk to Pothole Pete Floyd. I'm sure that there's some questions that you want to ask him that we haven't, I guess. So I'm trying to read what Jeff is sending me to, and I can't see. We got this secret thing, Pete. We're on Skype, and we can send messages back and forth to each other, and you can't see what we're talking about, and nobody else can see what we're talking about. But it does kind of get distracting sometimes,
It does. That's a lot of my problem sometimes. So.
You are the clever ones.
Well, Pete, what is on your top of your bucket list?
Oh, the very top. Well, I did mention the 2 cent, I guess. Well, I'm just like everybody else. I'm a little greedy. I want the gold coin, so I suppose that's on top. And I need a capped. I need to get a capped coin. So,
well, I'll tell you what. Don't give up on a cap bust, because I started hunting in 1976. And year before last was the first time that I found a large cent, and I've got 3 or 4 of those now. But and then I hadn't found a cap bust. Now, me and Jeff, after we finished up with the famous construction site in Gallatin, we went to a spot that he had. He wanted me to kind of look it over and see if I could identify where maybe a colonial house was. And we went there, and we found one, and he found I believe it was a 2 real that you found, wasn't it, Jeff, first?
No, actually, the first one was a 1 real.
Okay. And then I found something other, and I told him, I said, come over here and listen to this signal. Of course, at the time, we were using AT Pros, and he came over and listened to it, and we were talking about it. I went ahead and dug it. I think it's a flat button. He went to walk off, and he hit a signal that I guess probably would have been in my line. I don't know. Of course, we when we get in the field, it's everybody for themselves. I mean, you don't got dibs on anything. And he got a good sweet signal, and he was just working it back and forth. He said, "Come and listen to this one. Come and listen to this one." And I thought for sure he had another real, and he popped it out, and it was a beautiful cap bust. And of course, I was tickled to death for him, but it did cross my mind. Well, that went my chance to find a cap bust, you know.
That was my line. Why did he? Let me tell you another story. It happened to a good buddy of mine, Ronnie Weatherford. We were out at the infantry camp hunting, and he called me over. He'd found we were in the cavalry spot, and he called me over. He found a couple of 44 Colts, and I was like, man, that's pretty good. Of course, I was up on top of the hill. Of course, 7 Eyes the only one that knows this top of the hill, and then I walked back down past the sinkhole. And then, anyway, I was walking off from him, and I'd got probably 15, 20 yards. I had this screaming signal. I mean, it was blowing with the AT Pro, it was blowing headphones off. And so I dug down probably about 7 or 8 inches, and it was a sword belt plate. And it was right. I know it was right in his line. So, I mean, I kind of felt bad for a second, but then, just the excitement of finding a sword belt plate was, good enough. But, it was, he told me, he said, I'll sit over here and just dig the nails. You just go ahead and dig the belt plate and stuff. So.
And the guys in chat are talking about the different ways that you can run the AT Pro and also the AT Max. And they're talking about Swansea, Brandon Stewart. He runs in standard mode on the AT Pro, and when we had him on, he talked about that. Do you ever run in standard mode, Pete?
On the Pro?
Yeah. Does the Max have the standard and the Pro?
No, they did away with that.
Okay.
Yeah, on the Max. That's something, a lot of people always wonder why the standard mode was on there. A lot of people never used it. And I guess maybe the thing I can say about that, someone that has used an Ace, is that I have found with an Ace, and people might find this funny, but they do the work for you. Now that sounds weird, but when you get that dingity bongity bong, it's usually a coin. I'm serious.
Yeah.
And I would say if you run a Pro in that mode, and you get all that noise, that dinging, it's probably a coin. They just don't quit when there's a coin in the ground. There's just something about them, and I don't know why that is. And that's just me. And, anybody that's used an Ace or something, similar like running in standard mode, that's just what I found. So,
well, here's what Earl.
But I usually run it in Pro.
Yeah,
I usually run it in Pro.
Here's what that we do too. We run ours in Pro, and we've got iron audio off, and then we've got iron disc at 0 is the way we ran our Pros. Of course, we're running Equinoxes now. But Earl said if you go to the standard mode, you've got a whole new machine, and points out correctly that most people run in Pro 0, but he said he ran in standard mode by accident at DIV 40 and just accidentally got in standard mode, and then he ran it the rest of the day, and he said he couldn't have been happier with it. I know at one time I was running in standard mode. We were hunting somewhere, and Jeff hollered at me, and he said, I think you were in standard mode, he said, from what I'm hearing. So I switched over to Pro, or back over to Pro, because that's what I've always run. I don't know, Jeff. Maybe we ought to take those AT Pros back out and put them in standard and hit some of those spots that we've hit and see what they do.
Well, yeah, we should. And actually, the other day, for the hour that I got out, I took my AT Pro, and I had both of them in the truck, the Nox and the Pro, and then I went to the log cabin that had been burnt, and of course I was going to use my AT Pro. That's the first time I ever hit that site, and then of course I went to turn it on, and I'd taken the batteries out of it, so then I had to go back to my Equinox. So.
Well,
yeah, we need to run it.
I'll still take my. I'm sorry. I still take my ace down to the movie lot.
Oh, do you?
You know, because I mean, if there are coins in the ground, it just, like I say, they go wild.
Yeah.
And I just know it's a coin. You know, it's just I got that big coil on there, and it'll cancel out all the other stuff. But when there's a coin there, you know, it just goes wild. And that's what I like about it. So.
Well, Woody Jones described it. He said, "Dingity, dingity, booty bong." Yes, I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an annoying thing. I mean, the 400, the new series they've come out with, it's a little less dingity, dingity, bongity, bong. But they find coins. I mean, that's what they were engineered to do. They just go wild. So,
well, I
know. Experience.
I know Jeff used a AT Gold whenever his AT Pro was on the frets there one time. We didn't like the sound of it, did we, Jeff?
No, we did not. I did not like that. And unfortunately...
The gold?
Yeah, the gold. And I've found very little with the gold in good spots. And I couldn't get used to the tones. I mean, it just seemed like everything was pretty much the same tone. Now, I mean... like I said, I just used it for a little bit. Is that the way the AT Max is? What I've seen about the AT Max, it kind of sounds like the gold. Can you change that?
I can't speak to that, Jeff, because I never ran that gold.
Okay. I
know a gold has 2 settings, right?
Yeah, it's got 3. Yeah, it's got all metal, then discrimination 1 and 2, and that's
discrim 1 and 2. Yeah.
And if I'm right on this, maybe Tim Henderson's in the chat. He can straighten me out on it. But the AT Pro runs 15 kilohertz, and the Gold runs at 18. And so that's part of the difference between the tones, and it's just what you get used to hearing, I think. And me and Jeff, we've used a AT Pro for so many years. In fact, I think we got the first 2 that came off the manufacturer line. But we've used it.
I won't tell anybody that.
Tell Garrett that. Maybe they'll send us a couple of new ones. And I tell you what,
there you go.
There's a guy here in Kentucky that Jeff and I both know, and Larry Reynolds, and he and his wife had a couple of pros, and they got to using something else and weren't using them anymore. And I mean, they just looked like they came out of the box. And so he offered to sell me one of those, and I hooked up with him and bought it just to have a backup. I'm not going to get rid of my AT Pro. And I'm going to keep my backup as well, because that machine has found me so many good things.
Oh, it's done me the same way. And, of course, I'd seen on Facebook the other day, we have some a local 2 brothers. They hunt quite often, and they went out and bought AT Maxes. And they had their AT Pros for sale, and I believe they was pretty sure it was $250 a piece that they was wanting for their AT Pros. So if their name is Jeff and Greg Hollis, and they are here local in Gallatin, and they had there's AT Pros up for sale. Also a White's V3i, they had one of them for sale for $650. So I mean that's pretty good deals.
And Tim Henderson said you can't change the Max. And he said that the Max has a little tinnier sound than the AT Pro, and he confirmed what I said on the 15 kilohertz.
It's not as mellow, right?
Yeah. Hey, guys.
I guess that's the right word.
Yeah, we need to pay some more bills, and we'll be right back. If you want to keep up with what's going on in the metal detecting world, then you need to be a subscriber to American Digger magazine. Butch and Anita Holcomb are the publishers of the magazine and have won awards for 3 straight years for being the best digger magazine on the market. American Digger magazine is available in both print and digital formats, so no matter where you live in the world, you can enjoy the latest happenings in the hobby. You can get in touch with American Digger magazine by going to americandigger.com or give them a call at 770-362-8671 and be sure and tell them that you heard it on Relics Radio. I tell you what, guys, if you are not subscribed to American Digger magazine, you are missing out. 3 years straight running, they have been the best digger magazine on the market, and Butch and Anita Holcomb, they do a great job with that magazine for sure. And
They sure do.
And you can also, if you go to americandigger.com and look at their website, there is a feature in there called Just Dug. And you can click on that, and if you've dug something in, I think it's in the last 6 months, you can put your find on that Just Dug section, and maybe they will include that in the magazine, Jeff.
Yeah, that's what Heath was saying the other day. It's got to be within the last 6 months. So I was talking about the gold ring, and then, of course, I need to get it in there pretty quick. So, but, yeah, I believe it's 6 months. Pete, do you do any water hunting?
Very little. Our streams around here run pretty fast, and so it makes it very difficult.
Yeah, we try to do a little bit, and then I know Tim and Ron down in Murfreesboro, they do quite a bit. And I mean, I've done a little bit, but not a whole lot. And I know Seven, he's done a little bit, but this time of year,
I tried to do the river one time, and it's just too swift.
Yeah,
we have a river close by, and we don't have bedrock like you do. We have we're glaciated here, so we have a lot of gravels.
And you know, people may not know where you live. Give them a general idea. You don't have to be, you don't have to give us your address.
I live in West Central Ohio. So that's where the yeehaw comes from, the West Central thing. So that's why we do the yeehaw.
Well, that was a question that I was going to ask you, is where the yeehaw came from. And so now we know. Liz, Digging Canuck, is in the house. Hello, Liz. Good to have you on here tonight. And I tell you what, guys, if you hadn't caught her Sunday morning show, catch it. She does a great job with it. We had Liz on as a guest here not long back, and she was a great guest. And Jeff has put the call-in number again, 270-495-0315. I know somebody wants to call, and our Skype is working perfect. So call in, and we will add you to the group, and you can ask whatever questions that you want from Pete here tonight. Your turn, Jeff.
I see. I was reading Ron's comment, and then let's see. I'm on vacation, but Pete. I was going to ask you what your best find is.
My best find, I suppose, is my 3-cent nickel, because I know there are a lot of guys who have hunted and gals who have hunted for many years and have never found one. And I don't think I've seen too many people find them.
You know, there is a guy, he's called Digging with the Wolf, and he's out of Virginia, and a good friend of mine. I've never met him in person. We're trying to get hooked up maybe next time we go to DIV or something. But he and I found a Tram, and we were talking about that on a metal detecting forum, and just talking back and forth. Well, he went hunting the next day, and he found a silver Tram and a nickel Tram in the same hole. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh,
man,
no, I never have. No, it's amazing.
And then he told me, he said there was some karma there, you know, us talking about that, and then go out and find it. And I said, yeah, it's kind of freaky, ain't it? You know, there was something that I was going to bring up, and Heath Jones called me yesterday, and I talked to him about it a little bit. It's a little bit of a rant, I guess, and it's kind of off topic, but I want to share it with you guys anyway. But when we were driving down to Gulf Shores, my son-in-law and myself, we were talking. He's in the passenger seat, and I'm driving. And I was telling him, that we was having a video come out on Tuesday that was gold prospecting. And we were talking about metamorphic rock. And I said, you've got to have some metamorphic rock to have any good gold. No, Ken, it's not. We're not going to talk about permits. This is a different rant. Yeah, this is a different rant here. But anyway, we're talking about metamorphic rock. And I said, I know that there's quartz and pyrite, and we're naming off a few of them. And I said, I don't know too many examples of metamorphic rock. And so his youngest daughter, she's very bright, and she named off 2 or 3 there. She's in the back seat of the car with my wife and her mother. And so anyway, we're going down the road there, and I told my son-in-law, I said, why don't you just Google that, examples of metamorphic rock? Well, instead of ask Siri with a voice, he just taps it in, examples of, and then it automatically filled in metamorphic rock. Now, what do you guys think the chances of that would be?
Oh, man, that's pretty strange.
What do you think about it, Pete? You think they're listening to us?
You mean it listed them?
Well, in the searches, whenever you go to Google and you start a search and you put a few words in, it will automatically.
Oh, I see it. It filled it in. Right.
It filled it in.
Yeah.
How many people?
Like the granite feldspars, right? Uh-huh.
How many people do you think have Googled examples of metamorphic rock? I mean,
yeah, right.
And so I was, Heath had called me. We were talking about something else, and I told him about that. Well, we're talking about metamorphic rock and everything. And I said, what do you think the chances are? And we're talking, and then he says, you're not going to believe this. But he said, while we're talking, he said, I just went over to Google on my phone. I had you on speaker. And he said, I keyed it in, and it came up as examples of metaphors. And he said, I think they're listening, but they're not understanding this southern drawl that we've got going here. But I don't know. It was just something that I told them. I told Heath, I said, I'm going to share that on the show and see if anybody else has had that problem. But I know how it happened. They're listening to us on our phones is what they're doing. I told my wife, I said, when we go to bed at night, we're fixing to take our phones and put them in the refrigerator or somewhere where nobody can hear what's going on,
Yeah, that's one thing. If you want to get off the grid, you've got to get rid of that phone. And what is it in your vehicle that you can talk to?
OnStar?
Yeah, OnStar. And, I mean, they're listening in on that, too. So, I mean, but I look at it like if it keeps me safe, then I'm not going to talk about anything that is illegal. So, I mean, if it keeps me
there's
safe,
certain
I'll
words
be good.
You don't want to say, okay? That's all you got to remember.
There is certain, that is exactly right.
When my son-in-law first got his smartphone, he has a brother-in-law, and he was telling him all about, he said, yeah, you can push a button right here, and there's a lady called Siri, and said you can ask her any question, that you want to, and she, most of the time she'll answer that question. And he said, can I try it? And said, yeah. And so he pushes the button on there, and he said, Siri said, what's the temperature? Well, she comes back, and at your location, it's 78 degrees and fair skies, and gives the whole weather thing and everything. He said, well, I tell you what, that's amazing. And then he pushes the button again, and he said, Siri, how do I make a bomb? And Andrew said, give me that phone. He said, there'll be FBI at my house.
You'll get your name sent down to Fusion Center, and you won't be able to fly or buy a gun. So,
Well, just to let you know, right now, Digging with 7, Tennessee Jeff, and Pothole Pete Floyd's all on the no-fly list because we said the B word on Spreaker here tonight.
Yeah, somebody's knocking on my door. What's up with that?
Don't answer it. Don't answer it. And my chat's locked up, so I can't see anybody's reaction on what we're talking about, Jeff. You'll have to keep me filled in on that. Hey, Pete, what have y'all got? What have y'all got lined up right now as far as hunts go?
Well, like I said, I just did the clad hunt, so that's about all I'm going to put up. We might go out Friday, the boys, with the little boys, young boys, and try to hit the park. Maybe we'll find some jewelry because ball games are over, and we're hoping people drop some stuff. So, it's just week by week for me right now. So, trying to come up with stuff. So,
and you're like us.
Not that far ahead.
You're like us. You try to do a video every week, and it's tough in the summertime.
Yeah, I'm going to put something up every week, no matter what it is, because I think it's just, it's important for me to do it. I'm on disability, so, I keep my creative, juices going. So that's important for me. And, I just want to keep the channel going. I know my views are down, but I just like to document, what we find. So to me, that's really the main thing. So we're up to about 550 subscribers, which, I'm happy with that. It's like all of us. We'd always like to see things do better, but, you do the best you can. So that's all you can do. So.
That's one reason I started my videos is just the research and everything, and then just letting everybody know kind of where I found it. If somebody comes back and say, well, where did this come from? I can go back in the videos and say, hey, this is the exact spot it come from, blah, blah, blah. So,
and you'll appreciate that when you get my age, because it's very easy to forget what you do. And so just to document it and, just to save that for family members after you're gone, they can go.
Yeah, I have all my episodes on thumb drive too, so.
Yeah, I do too.
Just in case YouTube ever goes away, who knows?
I know. And I believe that it was Craig Talley said that he looked on his YouTube channel, and he's had a channel up for 5 or 6 years, pretty good length of time. And some of his earlier videos are gone.
Right.
But I put all of mine on a little disc, a little SD card, and each episode after I finish up with it, I put it on that, and the header that I put on, the picture and title shot and everything, just to keep. And, you never know whenever you might want to go back and look at one of those, and you never know what's going to happen, that they will. What kind of software editing program are you using?
I just use Windows Movie Maker. Yeah.
I never have used that.
I learned to use it years ago when of course, I'm involved in the mental health community, and I help with trainings with law enforcement, and I made a video. Gosh, it was an hour-long video for the training, and so that's, I just learned to use Movie Maker, so I just stayed with it. I didn't explore using anything else. So that's where I am on making videos. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever went back in your videos to a location like I'm saying? All right, I did find this Civil War piece. It was actually a blade to a Civil War bleeder, and of course I went back and I could not remember where I found that one blade at, and I went back to my videos and seen the exact spot where I found it, and then went back and found a couple of more pieces to it. Have you ever done anything like that? No,
I can't say that I have, Jeff. No.
Hey,
that's
guys.
Interesting that you brought that up.
We got a caller on, finally. Woody Jones. What's going on tonight, Woody?
Hey, Seven, Jeff, and Pete. How you guys doing tonight? It's a great show.
Woody.
I'm enjoying it.
Okay.
Hey, Pete, I got a question for you. I heard you say you're from West Central Ohio, which is
right
a little bit west than maybe the east side of Ohio. It might have a little bit more history than, say, the west side. but I mean, that's understandable. Where is it that if you were going to go hunt in your area, would you prefer to go hunt some woodlands, looking at your maps, or in town at some old houses, or just some old farm fields around your area?
Well, I love the fields. I'm not a door knocker, you know.
Right, yeah, that's me, yeah.
Deal, and, you know, you run into some people just plain hostile, and I can't deal with that personally.
Right. Yeah, understandable.
And I have a site right now that will, after the harvest, will come up, and it's actually half lawn, which is a good friend of mine, and it's half woods, and it's half, well, it's third. It's a third yard, it's a third field, and it's a third woods. So I pulled some stuff out of there. That's actually where I found my heart heel plate, and I can't wait till the beans are off the fall. And
that'd be cool to find a heart heel plate. That's awesome.
Oh, that would be great.
Are you close to the Indiana border? Do you ever go to Indiana and hunt? Because, you know, you don't ever hear much about on YouTube about Indiana. You know, you never hear like, oh, hunt Indiana, it's great. I just wonder if you ever go out there and find anything, or
No, I don't travel well. I'm on disability because of my lower back, so I can't really hunt very long, and I can't sit very long. So it makes it kind of difficult. I usually try to get out, you know, an hour and a half a day just for the exercise, but it just depends. So, but I'm about 40 miles west of Columbus is where I am. So.
Okay, all right, I got you. Okay.
Are you in the heart of all of those large scents where you're at, or most of those east?
Yeah, we've got quite a few of them here.
What is your thought on large scents? Why? And I don't know if I said it there a while ago. Madison, I see Madison, Maine is in. Welcome.
Yep. Hello, Matt.
What is your idea on why there are so many large scents in Ohio and so few down here where we're at? And that's pretty well the situation in all of the South, whether you're talking about Kentucky or Tennessee or Georgia or Alabama. There just aren't
North Carolina. Yeah.
What is your thought on that, Pete?
I know our county personally was a very wealthy type agricultural community. I don't really know why. I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you
what. There was something.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Seven.
Go ahead, buddy.
I was going to say there's something. There's something I saw. Now, whether this is relevant or not, I'm not sure. But on the Mel Gibson movie, The Patriot, I don't know if y'all. I'm sure y'all seen that movie. But if you remember, at one time when Cornwallis was fighting, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but he's like, "Tell me about Ohio." So for some reason, the British loved Ohio before it was a state. It was just kind of like an area they called Ohio, and they loved Ohio. Now, whether it has anything to do with this, I don't know, because I haven't really done a lot of research on that. But, you know, there's a lot more large scents you're going to find in Ohio than Mr. Boy, than you'll probably find in Kentucky, and I will find here in North Carolina.
Yeah.
So there was something that drew them to that area, and what it is, you know, who knows? Who knows if we'll ever know? But that's interesting because, like you said, why did they find all these large scents in Ohio when we were one of the 13 colonies, North Carolina, you know, right across the border is Kentucky and Tennessee, but we don't find them like they do up north in Ohio. I mean, who would think Ohio?
Yeah.
So it's interesting, you know.
Go ahead, Pete.
No, I'm not sure about that one.
What was the question?
03. Ohio became a state in 03.
Okay.
And I don't know what the population was of Ohio as compared to Kentucky.
Right.
And then you would figure there were a lot of people probably came the St. Lawrence Seaway and then through the lakes and then came down. And then, of course, I know a lot of people came from Kentucky. I know my people came from Kentucky way back. So, yeah, I don't really have an explanation for it. I really don't.
So we're
one of the
home
sites that Seven and I hunt. Of course, we found maybe 5 large cents off this one property, and I'm pretty darn sure they were from Ohio. So the family that lived there.
Well, the large cents that I have found, the majority of them were brought down by Union soldiers from Ohio, Pennsylvania, and up in that area.
That sounds like would be right to me. It really does.
Now, here's one thing that I heard, and it sounds logical to me. They said in the South back in the day that the banks would not recognize copper money. They wanted silver. They didn't recognize copper as currency. And so, if you had a large cent, you might as well have a rock because the bank or the store or anything wasn't going to take it.
That's what Madison just put in there. It says the South did not embrace the copper coins back at then. So.
Well, that may be where we heard that because it was on a show, and Madison, Maine may have said that. That may be where it came from.
Yeah. I think that was several months ago, maybe, that he said that, and so that's
well, we're all the wiser now, aren't we? So.
Yeah.
Well, thanks to Madison, Maine. Yep.
Yeah. And that's the only logical explanation that I've ever heard. But I know, if you find a large cent down here, you're on top of your game. I mean, you've really found something.
Yeah. My first one actually come from a Civil War campsite of the 105th Ohio Volunteer Infantry. So there you go.
Yeah. Have you found any drapes down there? Any drape buffs or anything that old drape?
Sir?
Any drape buffs or anything like that? Large cents?
No.
Nobody that you know of down there?
No. Earl from Virginia, he sent me a drape bust large cent because he had a certain year that I wanted, a 1798. That's on my bucket list because of some local history stuff. I want to find a 1798 something. And I said, I'd love to have a 1798 drape bust large cent. Well, I look and Earl from Virginia sends me one. And within just a few weeks, I found my first large cent. So I wish somebody'd send me a U.S. plate right now or a CS plate so I can go find one.
Oh, yeah.
Well, buddy, I'll put one in the mail. I'll
yes, sir. Hey, guys, I'll get off here and let y'all call somebody else. So, hopefully somebody else call it. Okay. All right, I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Calling in.
Hold on just a second, Woody. Go ahead, Jeff.
We come up with a deal earlier. The first caller won a T-shirt. So you are the first caller, so you can get with us and then give us your size and then your address where we can ship it to you. So congratulations.
Well, that's cool. That's great. I posted on there earlier. How about if the first youngin' or first kid calls or comments, I'll donate my prize to that. How about that? Because I'm gonna order mine anyway. I'm here to support y'all. So how about all these parents out here listening to us tonight? You have your kid call in, and they can have my prize tonight. How about that?
Well, that'll work. That'll work for us.
How about that?
If we've got somebody on here, and if a kid doesn't call, well, then Woody will send it to you. But let's open the phone lines up. 270-495-0315. Have your young'un call, and they've got a Relics Radio T-shirt, and that's very good of you, Woody. We appreciate
Compliments of Woody Jones.
That's right.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys. I love you guys. And Pete, great show tonight. And I'll let y'all go, and I'll sit back and listen. I'll catch y'all next week.
Thank you, Woody.
Have a good evening, Woody.
All right. Y'all too. Thanks.
Man, I really hope that we have some young person that will call in, and it doesn't matter to us. Hey, Barb, you can call in and act like a kid.
She weighs what, 45 pounds?
That's when she's wet. Yeah.
Yeah. Mark said my phone just started responding in Russian. So
who said that?
Mark Hoover.
Oh, see, I can't get anything on the chat anymore. I don't know why Spreaker does that, but once you get up around 200 or so, whoever is engineering the show, chat locks up. So I would have to go to some other medium to be able to see it. Hey, guys, we do have one more commercial break, and then we'll be right back. If your passion is metal detecting, then you know how much your success is based on the equipment you use. Let my buddy Tim Henderson of Murray Branch Outdoors in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, help you with that. Tim is an authorized dealer of Garrett, XP Deus, Tesoro, and macro detectors and supplies, and he is now an authorized dealer for Mine Lab. So, if you're looking to get your hands on the new Equinox 600 or 800, then Tim is your guy. Murray Branch Outdoors is not only competitive in their prices, but the service after the sale is second to none. Tim not only sells detectors, he uses them, and so he can answer any questions you might have. Murray Branch Outdoors also deals in used detectors, and he'll take your old detector in on trade when you decide to upgrade. So give Tim of Murray Branch Outdoors a call at 615-948-4611 and be sure and tell him Relics Radio sent you. And speaking of Tim Henderson, he has just called in. What's going on, Tim?
Hello, this is Tim Henderson's son.
It ain't gonna work, buddy. It ain't gonna work.
It doesn't sound like a juvenile voice to me.
Not convincing enough, huh?
No, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. But hey, guys, if you do need any kind of metal detecting supplies, give Tim a call. I tell you what, he'll fix you up, and he's a great guy. And we don't take our commercials lightly. I mean, we're not going to promote anybody that we don't believe in. And, I know Tim personally, Jeff and I do. We've hunted with them, and him and Ron, they're just both great guys. And we got to get down there and do some water hunting, son.
Yeah, now tell him the truth,
I don't know if you saw Ron's post there, but he's off all next week, and we got a little trip planned for y'all if you can squeeze it in one day next week.
Would have to be
put you on the spot.
Would have to be a Tuesday or Thursday for me, probably.
We can make that happen.
Because it's just
Jeff. What about you, brother?
Thursday works good for me. She's supposedly off, so that works good for me.
Okay. Well, let's pencil it in, and we'll see how it goes.
But you ain't gonna get a shirt.
That's okay.
All right. Should I bring my scuba? Should I bring my scuba gear or what?
Well, I don't know. After the last couple of times y'all come down here, after we go water hunting, you might want to make up a new shirt or something. Hopefully it won't be anything too adventurous. But
we've been on the side of a mountain where you had to hold a metal detector in one hand and a bush or a tree in the other hand to keep from falling off of it. And then we had an encounter with a bull. I tell you what, Pete. You don't want to go down there and hunt with those guys unless you are physically fit, because you may have to
hunt at your own risk, right?
Yeah, you may have to run, or you may have to balance yourself real good. And I tell you what, big old boy like me, I get to rolling down a hill. It's the bottom before I get stopped.
Well, see, he makes a path for everybody else to detect on. That's the good part. So. That's no kidding. You could pinpoint right at head level, and then that's how I found my two sharps. I was head level. You could detect right there, and then of course the bull got after me, and then of course, luckily, somebody was looking after me. The bull fell before he got to me, and I heard Seven say, "Watch out!" And then the next thing I turn around, and there's a bull laying on the ground, like 30 foot from me, and then wallering around. And I was like, oh, well, let me get across this fence.
Hey, Pete, he didn't fall. He was laughing because Jeff ran across that field. He got to a barbed wire fence. He throwed his GPX over the fence, and then he's trying to crawl over that. He's trying to jump over the barbed wire, but he can't make that. And he gets hung up in it, and he's battling with the barbed wire and looking back at the bull. And I swear the bull was laughing when he fell.
No, I'm sure he was. See what I have to put up with.
My truck, and I couldn't decide whether to stay in the truck and just let y'all go detecting or make a run for it while the bull was distracted. So I didn't want to be a wuss, so I took off and ran around the other side of the field while he wasn't looking.
Well, we let him have the field. Hey, Pete,
Oh,
have you got any funny situations that's come up with you while detecting?
Boy, you asked me too quick.
Asked you, well, while you're thinking about it, we got Barb on the phone. What's going on tonight, Barb?
Not much, but I got an idea.
Let's hear it.
what's that?
Well, since it's after 9 o'clock and all the kids are probably asleep, why don't you pick on that girl relic digger shirt and send it to Miss Emily, little dirt digger, who had to go to the hospital today.
Oh, did she?
Yes,
What?
she did. She was in the emergency room. She fell and hurt herself, but nothing broke finally. But yeah, it was on Facebook.
That is a great idea. And she's going to be at the Chattanooga show, which we're going to be at on July the 28th. That's on a Saturday. The show is 28th and 29th. But we're going to be there, and she's going to be a special guest. And I'm going to engineer the American Digger Relic Roundup, the History Seekers, and Your Own Relics Radio shows from there. So, yeah, that's a great idea. We need to – can you get in touch with her for us, Barb, and get an address and a size and all that and get it to Ken and Mark Guthrie? Or back?
I can.
Okay. That's a wonderful idea. And you know what? People can say what they want to, but this is still a pretty good old world. I mean, you look, we give Woody a shirt. He gives it back to give to some kid, and then here Barb calls in and rather than be like Tim and try to act like a little kid,
There's some good people in this.
there's some good people.
I
I'm
didn't
just
have enough time to practice my Emily voice, so that's why.
Did you get a chance to hear the shirt commercial earlier in the show?
Yes.
What'd you think about it?
Y'all are great. I love y'all.
Well, we really appreciate it. We love you too, Barb.
Yeah, we do.
And if pick on you in the chat, somebody was laughing because I called you a butthead, and they wanted to know, did that make Jeff this? I've met these guys. I've been on their show in person, which many people can't say. They're great guys. I love picking on people, and so I will get all that information to Ken and Mark, and I think that'll, make her day.
I think
It
so.
sure will.
I think so too. And if worse comes to worse, you can send it to my email, diggingwith7@gmail.com. Or
Mark gave me his email address, and I already have Emily's mailing address. I just don't have her size, so I'll hit Shannon up and ask him.
Okay, and be sure and tell her that is courtesy of Woody Jones, and that he won the T-shirt, and it was his suggestion that we give that free T-shirt to a kid. This has already started off great, and we can't thank Ken and Mark enough for coming up with the idea of doing these shirts for us and allowing us to give away a couple of shirts on a show. I mean, it's just it just added a whole new thing to Relics Radio, and we certainly do appreciate everybody that's involved in it. Them and Barb for this suggestion here, and Woody for giving it, and we even like Tim trying to act like a little kid.
No, he done a good job, but it didn't work.
Had to give it a shot.
Before you get off, Barb, what is I know you were doing some interviews for some jobs. Is anything panning out for you?
Well, I interviewed a second time yesterday for educator job, which I've done for 12 years, and I was told that my resume was fabulous, excellent, unbelievable, but I hadn't worked at the bedside in 10 years, and that was my downfall. And I'm like, I use your equipment in my lab, it's like, so I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, well, I've been thinking about you and hope that and while you're on here too, we've got our guest just kind of hanging in the background. You got anything that you wanted to ask Pete?
Oh, I'll tell you, he has found some nice stuff. Ohio is a nice place. I don't know if I want to live in Ohio, but no, he's been a great guest, and I appreciate you guys and Josh are my two favorite shows. I just want you to know that.
Well, we appreciate that. I know you and Josh have been close for a long time. You've been part of his show for a long time, and you're right. I mean, you are one of very few people that have been on the show live in person. We hope to change that July the 28th at Chattanooga, have some more people on there. But, hey, Pete, before she gets off, tell her.
Is Barb in Chattanooga?
No, Barb is in North Carolina. That's right, isn't it, Barb?
Oh, I lived in Chattanooga for 3 years. So, yeah.
Oh, really?
I'm in
when I was in college.
I live in Cullowhee, North Carolina.
Yeah, I knew it was North Carolina. And, whenever me and my wife took that anniversary trip, we stayed just a few minutes from you and didn't know it until it was really too late. We could have met up then,
Man.
I know. You don't check your Facebook account when you're on vacation.
Yeah, didn't want everybody knowing where we're at and what we're doing. Hey, before she gets off, Pete, tell her how many Indians that you have found.
See, here you go, Seven.
Yeah,
I got a whole handful of them one day. I was really tickled. I got a bunch of them one day.
How many do you think that you found over the years?
Oh, I don't know. I've kind of lost count. I really have. No. Not to make you feel bad, Barb. Yeah.
And let me ask you one more question. How much silver have you melted down? How many silver coins have you melted down?
I've got enough to melt down because, like I said, that movie lot gave up a lot of modern silvers. I would love to have a big block of silver out of it, but I haven't got to doing it yet. So
now, Seven, you used to like the show. Now, now Barb, how close are you to Hayesville, North Carolina?
Oh, I don't know. Which way is that, east or west?
That would be, it's below, it's a little bit to the east of Chattanooga.
Oh, okay. Well, it's like 2.5 hours to Chattanooga, so maybe 2 hours, an hour and a half, somewhere.
Okay. I run up on a cabin there on a creek, and I haven't said anything to Seven about it yet, but we may go prospecting for gold there before the winter hits, and if we do, you should come down and we'll try to find a little bit of gold. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because I'm an old gold prospector from way back.
Uh-oh.
Well, we're fixing to extend the show then because we want you to talk about it.
I'm going to post something on Relics Radio tomorrow. So one of my gold finds for you. So,
okay.
Ohio has quite a bit of gold in it.
Does it? Now, what kind of
Well, it's because the glaciers pushed it down from Hudson Bay.
Yeah.
And then it terminated in our area. So.
Well, I'm packing my bags now, Pete. So.
Okay.
Hey, Jennifer, get my boots.
I got a 4-inch dredge ready to go.
I'll be there to pick it up tomorrow, Tim.
Road trip. Here we all go. You don't have to say too much. What kind of prospecting do you do? Do you just pan and sluice, or do you have a high banker or a dredge, or what, Pete?
I built my own dredge in 1985, a 2-inch, and we do have some bedrock streams around here, and we were able to recover quite a few flakes. And then about 70 miles south of our area is the terminal moraine where the glacier stopped. And there's a larger stream down there, which was a huge slate bottom type stream, which had natural riffles in it. And we would suction those, my buddy and I, we suctioned those cracks out, and I pulled a nugget about the size of a grain of wheat. And I had it mounted in a ring for my daughter. So
sweet.
And then, of course, I've accumulated quite a bit of flour gold and flakes. So, but I spent about a year doing that. So,
well, that's good. 7 now, we're just now getting into it, and I went out and bought me a sluice the other day, and haven't used it yet. So hopefully we can.
Yeah. Well, North Carolina, that was the first gold strike.
Mm-hmm.
In the U.S. Actually, a guy was actually using a gold nugget to prop his door open with. Is the story I remember reading years ago. And,
a big nugget, too.
Yeah.
That thing was
17 pounds, I think it was.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine today having a nugget that big?
I was reading the story the other day, and they was talking about the gold mine, and then the first gold mine in North Carolina. And then, of course, so happened this little spot that I run up on is not too far from there. So,
hey Barb, if you can find a nugget that big, you don't need a job.
I'll tell you what.
That runs all the way down into Alabama. That's where we did some dredge. As a matter of fact, Ron went with us, and a buddy of mine, and he had a home built 6-inch dredge. My buddy did, and we did a 3-day weekend down there. And we ended up with an ounce total on our clean out.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
great.
a couple of good pickers, too.
Yeah.
Hard work.
We've been to
That's,
southern Indiana. They used to pull pea-sized nuggets out of there at the terminal moraine area there, Brown County, Indiana.
Well, I got a guy that called me from London, Kentucky, and they do a lot of Civil War hunting over there, and called me and kind of said something about me and Jeff coming up there, and he's got a couple of camps, wanting me to help him with some research and everything, trying to find some camps. But he's going up into southern Indiana and doing some prospecting, and he said he's done well there. And he's been to Coker Creek in Tennessee. We have very little in Kentucky, and it's in the northern part up around the Ohio River. And then there's a section or two along the Kentucky-Tennessee line that is similar to the makeup, the geological makeup of Coker Creek, where you can find some. But now me and Jeff, we're not finding much at all. I don't know. I guess out of everything that we've done, we've found a couple of very, very small pieces is all that we've got.
Yeah, but it's fun trying, and you never know when you're going to hit that one little spot that's going to have good gold in it. And I mean,
that's what they thought. That's what they thought when they left.
The gold rush.
That's what started the gold rush, and they left North Carolina and Georgia to go there. And
3 days. About 6 foot deep in the river with a 6-inch dredge will quail out just a little bit. It's fun finding it, but I tell you, gold is a lot of work. I don't care how you go about it, whether suction and cracks or whether you're doing a sluice and just working your concentrates down in a 5-gallon bucket with screens or however you do it. It's hard work. So you want to be where you got the gold.
It is.
Well, I thought we just went and picked it up off the ground. That's what I thought.
No. It's hard work, man.
That didn't work out.
We found some good pickers down in Alabama, though. We found a few good pickers.
Hey, guys, we're coming up on the end of the show. Certainly do appreciate all the calls that we've had tonight from Woody and from Tim and from Barb, and certainly do appreciate the opportunity to give some shirts away, and kudos to Ken and Mark for making that happen for us. Jeff says. Hey, before we get off here, though, Pete, you've been a great guest. Tell everybody.
Thank you.
Tell everybody about your YouTube channel and about your Facebook stuff and everything, where they can jump on over and
Yeah,
watch some...
Yeah, Facebook is just simply Drama in the Dirt. And then, of course, my YouTube channel is Pothole Pete Floyd. And I think that's will do you. So...
Well, that's great. And like I say, you've been a good guest. And
well, thank you. I really appreciate you having me on. I'm sorry it took me so long to get on.
Yeah, we had talked about coming on, and you had some prior obligations where you were doing some teaching, seminars or what have you, and couldn't do it. But we finally got everything hooked up, and it was a good show. We appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate your patience, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was our honor to have you on, Pete. It sure was.
Well, it's very kind of you to say that.
Jeff, you got anything else?
Well, just thanks for the guys and gals in the comment section and all the callers, Barb, Tim, and Woody. Thank you very much. We couldn't do the show without you, and this is why we do the show is for you guys. So thank you very much, and thank you, Pete, for being our guest.
Yeah, well, it was a learning experience for me, so appreciate it a whole lot.
I don't know that we can teach you anything, but you have been a good guest. And we've taken up an hour and a half of your time right now and kind of in free baseball. But I'm going to go ahead and close the show out. If you guys want to hang on the line there, okay. We will talk. Or if you got to go, you can go. But if you'll hang on the line, we'll talk after the show. Hey, guys, be sure and catch us next week. We've got Carl Cara, is a designer and builder and manufacturer of ground-penetrating radar. And he plans to go to DIV this next spring and try some of those machines out and show them and everything. That's going to be a real interesting show. And as we do each week, we want to plug the other shows. If you like metal detecting shows, then be sure on Sunday and Wednesday night to catch Beyond Sight and Sound with Josh Kimmel and American Digger Relic Roundup on Monday night. By the way, Josh and them are on at 8 p.m. Eastern. American Digger is on at 9 p.m. Eastern on Monday night. And All Metal Mode is on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern. History Seekers is on Tuesday night at 9 p.m. And Hardcore Metal Detecting is on Thursday night and Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. And we will be back here again next Thursday night at 8 o'clock Eastern. And until then, get out there and dig some history. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Relics Radio. We really do appreciate it. Be sure and join us live each Thursday night at 7 o'clock Central Time, 8 o'clock Eastern here on Spreaker. Or you can catch the archive show at Relics Radio on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, or iTunes. Please take a minute and hit the like button and be sure and follow us so that you'll get notifications of all of our upcoming broadcasts. You can also find us on YouTube at Digging with Seven or Tennessee Jeff, or you can check us out on our Relics Radio Facebook page. If you'd like to get in touch with us, then send an email to diggingwith7@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. We hope you'll join us next Thursday night, and until then, get out there and dig some history.